time bank. It did feel like both teams were in it. They had their chances. So going into Anubis here, I'm still backing Machi Esports. I think they've got a little bit more in the tank here, and they might just be able to outlast EXL.
And I got to think for Machi as well, after seeing Kings Row, you do start to favor them on the non-control maps, and even then, it was EXL coming through on the second and the third deciding control stages. They didn't even win the first one, so Machi Esports have mostly looked better overall across the two maps. We'll see if that continues. We'll see if EXL can sort of bring things out their way instead, and it's pretty interesting comp so far. Staffordshire does see Moria before we get shut down.
Yep, we do see a very early pick there from Machi Esports. Can't get much closer to the spawn than that though, so not a huge deal. We'll just buy a couple of seconds for ESL, but it does buy them time to press tab and work out what the attacking composition is. So that's actually quite valuable.
Well, the good news is Staffordshire kind of peeked that anyway. He popped over the side, and as he got the shot into Chloe's head, got a decent look at what Machi were EXL were kind of running there. Yom1's trying to get himself some decent sights, but just finding potential threat from Staffordshire, and he's playing very careful.
If you can force them onto the point here, the Moira is amazing. Those biotic orbs will do so much damage or healing.
The medic's even lower, and that means, you know, one support down, one tank down. You're not expecting too much else out of EXL in terms of this push, and I think you're right, you do want to be able to force Machi onto the point. Not even that, but you want to force Machi somewhere. You want to force him anywhere that's not on that high ground. You need to force him to rotate. And so far, Machi, you know, they're unbothered. They're not too keen to move from this position.
No, and they're going to have to deal with a whole new lineup now as we see the tank switch. We see medic switch on the healer as well, even the DPS. We're going Genji for Victorious here. He thinks that's what is his ticket to winning today. Shui already got the Riptire though, and he's almost going to have the wall hacks to go with it in a second.
That's one thing we failed to mention is actually EXL made a substitution here. Victorious coming in for Assassin, who played the first two maps. Kind of the opposite of what we expect. Assassin usually plays around this time, and Victorious been swapped out. It is opposite day for EXL-Esports, but we don't want to see the opposite day in terms of losing instead of winning. And Victorious, though, that's a fat loss, unfortunately, for him. And EXL rebuffed once more. 2 minutes now, roughly, remaining on the attacking time.
Yeah, it's been a pretty lackluster effort so far from EXL. They've made a couple of pushes. Nothing came of it. Switch composition, still nothing really going right for EXL. They need to find the trump card here. Is it going to be this further dive composition?
Let's also consider that changing comps here for EXL resets their ultimate charge progress, so they're even further behind. It's a good thing in a way that gives you a fresh beginning and a potential other way to get around the map, but kind of sucks in terms of the economy. It is starting to show that what else is starting to show is that EXL pressed the trigger, and Machi have not. Machi have fallen asleep. Machi have 4 ultimates and have failed to use any of those 4 ultimates, and now if you're creative, you probably don't even want to use the Transcendence because the rest of your team is dead. Wow, Machi Esports had been driving this truck, but they fell asleep at the wheel.
Veered off the road, or have they? Because they still have a bunch of ultimates, AVRL.
Lost one.
And think about what we've seen so far tonight. Anubis, you need to have a strong first fight on this point B, and if they bank a couple of ultimates into that, there's a good chance that that will happen.
I mean, they could have also just fully held A, so it does beg the question here. I mean, with 4 ultimates, they definitely could have done it. It wouldn't have been too tough, I can imagine. But right now, I can also imagine that, once again, it's EXL coming through pretty strong on this attack. And for Machi Esports, still just failing to really utilize these ultimates. Finally, the Valkyrie does come into play with the medic down on the opposite end. EXL probably unlikely to continue with this push. EXL need both their healers alive to maintain a sustainable push onto B. If they cannot do that, they cannot cap.
No, you absolutely need everyone on the point contributing there.
Let's take a look at this replay from Victorious as well. Onto the back line, supports caught with their pants down, and this is back when there were 4 ultimates available for Machi, and both were creative and burst. Just decided, well, I'm not too scared of Victorious, or Victorious to give you a reason to be scared of him.
So he's got the Mercy right there next to him. At that point, he's probably saying, he's only throwing shurikens at me. Your beam should be able to out-heal this. He hasn't pulled out the Dragon Blade yet. That's what I'm going to save my trance for, but it doesn't work out.
Saving his trance with point B, apparently, for Machi Esports. You like to see him use it at some point,
Still saving it.
Especially when Victorious has this blade up again. Note that Yomon is also now free. And finally, Trance here to counter out the Dragon Blade. What was also there to counter him out is Chloe's Shield Bash. If Victorious, or rather not Chloe, but Shui's Shield Bash, Victorious will get nothing out of this blade. That doesn't mean that EXL will get nothing out of the push. They are still in this right now. First kill coming out through Shui onto Chloe and starting to look bad for EXL. They probably will look to just give this one up for the time being.
Yeah, Shui on the Brigitte there being the difference. I did like the start of that fight for EXL. You know, they forced the Trance out with that Dragon Blade. They're happy to make that switch. And then they just play it patient for a bit. They wait for the Transcendence to go away, and then they're like, okay, now's our time to go and get some real estate on the point. Unfortunately, Shui is too much for them. And the German raised lady of Swedish descent manages to do the job for them.
Very well done. And EXL-Esports there, we talk about real estate. They did get one tick, so they can be proud of that. And now moving on to the full GOATS composition. I should say full, it's not technically full. Medic is not on the Moira, but
no Moira.
You'll take the Valkyrie here anyway. Big ultimate advantage for Machi Esports, so still not expecting too much momentum in EXL unless Machi failed to really commit these ults. But so far, it doesn't look like they'll make the same mistake twice.
No, here we go. Shui is switched off the Brigade, you'll notice, onto the Junkrat now, where he's doing a prodigious amount of damage with these grenades and mines. Seeing so many come out, and that's given him a very quick Riptide. You've got to remember, he only just switched to this hero. Already the ultimate up and ready for use. One tick now for EXL-Esports on this point. But Shui is going to turn this boat right around with 2 kills from the Riptide.
Yep, and that's dropped the anchor right now. He's going to swing it back, and EXL-Esports, they feel the pain in their face. Look at that. Massive tire kills.
Oh, and
2 supports down. Stagger as well coming through. Gebolshi not even going to bother to remake because that would just be unfortunate. And for EXL, stopped in their tracks. Again, as soon as those supports get killed, and they are the easiest members to go down, especially when a tire is available for Shui. EXL playing a GOATS, playing attack with B, they cannot sustain.
So now we've got the full GOATS composition coming out with just enough time maybe for Medic to get that ultimate up and fire the Coalescence down the middle, maybe in the next attack. It doesn't look like they'll have it this time, and oh my gosh, the tank's doing so much damage right here. The Cleave from the Winston, the Diva Rockets, but they're just a distraction for Staffordgen to come in and steal the show.
And I do have to say, this is a difficult ultimate for Staffordgen to get value out of as well. When you look at the lineup,
especially on Anubis. Like
there's multiple shields. The Brigida has a shield, the Ryan has a shield. There's also a Diva there with the Matrix. It's not easy to get high value out of this Deadeye, but Staffordgen manages to thread the needle on not 1 but 2 members. And still Machi have been able to hold 4 ultimates available, one of which is a Riptide.
Okay, so for this next fight, look how many ultimates Machi have got coming up. This grab is going to need to be perfect from Yom 1. They've got to get that Transcendence out of creative before he uses it, otherwise it's probably going to come to nothing. Maybe Medic can laser him down with a Coalescence.
The problem here with this grab is EXL need to be able to play onto the grab, and they're not going to have a lot of time doing that if Victorious and Chloe go down. So again, 2 healers means no progress for EXL. If Machi were maybe slightly more patient, they could have potentially baited out the Graviton Surge first, then played the Riptide to punish, and for EXL, that would have really hurt them because then they would have committed ultimates and they would have lost the fight.
Yeah, okay. Bullshit down the bottom here actually manages to get the overtime, so pulled a fast one over Machi there, but the Wool is not going to stay over their eyes for long.
Well, I mean, EXL, they get given a little bit of time to play with, so it's effective for the time being, and here come those ultimates. They've been saving up Sound Barrier into a Coalescence, into a Rally. Talk about HP right now. EXL have the sustain, but do they have the damage? It's only one half the equation. Grav comes out. I don't believe it's even there. Goodbye, Graviton Surge. Chop that one up. Judo's very hungry today, and now the response ultimates from Machi Esports means EXL have used their resources. They've used their firepower. They've shot their bullets. Now they're ready to reload, except there's no time to reload. Fight's over. Game's over. Overtime's ticking down. EXL do not cap. Machi will full hold B.
2 ticks, though. Better than nothing. All right, they've got the first point.
Also better than 1 tick.
And less as good as 3 ticks. But that's some quick maths for you. We're going now to the other side here, and it's going to be a tough proposition for them to hold this out. I mean, 2 ticks is isn't great on Anubis. You're really hoping to get the full cap here, and I think...
Some teams don't even get one tick, so it may be enough. It's when I said it was better than one tick, I'm quite serious in that regard, because one tick is very capable for an attacking team, but many teams have failed to even get two, so there is a world where this is enough progress, but certainly it's not as good as a full cap, and we are not going to see a time back, most importantly.
No, not at all. It's going to be decided on this next attack run from Machi Esports. The series won't be decided. One team will go up 2-1 here, and once again we'll be down to that fourth game to really decide things. Possibly fifth.
I want to talk about momentum here as well, because similar to Nova Esports in our previous matchup, Machi, if they can pick this map win, they'll be the ones sitting at 2-1, but not just any 2-1, it'll be 2 map wins in a row. And momentum cannot be understated, because when a team is on a roll, there's a high likelihood that they can carry that momentum through to map 4, pick up the escort as well, and clean up 3-1. Now, it'll be up to EXL to stop that, but we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. EXL could very well still defend this. We've seen what a miracle hold can do. Blank did it against Nova Esports. Just right here, it could have been a full hold. Blank then did a full hold on A on Route 66, so anything could happen.
Okay, so 3 tanks here for EXL-Esports on the defense. So
this is a weird comp.
Before you've had, you know, a Junkrat to be able to use his conch mines and peel for the Widow up the back. This time they're going with a D.Va, so Gebulshi can take that. There's not going to be much peeling from the Brigida, but at least you can peel from a medium sort of distance here. Wow, they've actually managed to get into that room unscathed. That's a good effort.
I said this was a weird comp from EXL, but actually it's pretty genius against a pure dive, because Machi now can basically only contest EXL by diving into them. However, EXL have the type of composition, Orisa, Hog, Brigida, where it's going to be quite hard to dive into. You don't necessarily want to play
get stunned out straight away.
Pretty much. So actually, EXL may have outcomped Machi Esports at least for this opening engagement.
And, whoa, Victorious missing the hook there. Good work playing around his bubble there. Leo manages to just get out in time. The couple of kills being traded here, but it's that Brigida pick who obviously is going to have trouble dealing with the divers if they manage to get on the high ground and come in from that sort of aspect, but on the ground, that's hers.
I would expect Machi to consider changing up here somewhat. And I got to think as well, you know, a potential goat swap could be quite advantageous here. That would allow you to dive into EXL and have the kind of tankiness, have the sustain, have the power to brawl your way through, where a dive comp is a little bit more brittle and possibly isn't going to be enough to break EXL's defense right now. That being said though, Machi don't want to waste these ultimates. That is the other way that Machi can get a lot of value. The ultimates make a big difference for this dive comp.
Yeah, Yomwon wasn't playing up the back there though. He was playing with the team, so they had the chance to dive straight onto the sniper if they wanted to.
Right now, EXL did have to shift positioning at least somewhat, but EXL are undeterred. I mean, they're still not really losing members. Staffordgen, that's a very optimistic pulse bomb. But he'll be disappointed because it didn't hit anyone, and so for EXL, suddenly they haven't really used ultimates outside of an infra site, whereas Machi has begun committing ultimates, and those ultimates they've committed have given them no value, and EXL still just doing so well here.
Yomwon went for such a risky peek there onto the Tracer and almost gets punished. A little bit of RNG even with those Tracer bullets could have gone against him there.
He did get pocketed too.
But he does manage to get a sweet kill onto Shui. So Machi, they haven't even made it out of the gates, AVRL.
This is the thing, right? We talk about EXL failing to cap out B, but it doesn't matter if they can full hold A. It just completely changes the narrative.
We were talking about it as if they had guaranteed cap on point A.
There's no guarantees in this game. Certainly not right now, but what we can say is Machi, they're trying their darndest, and with the Dragon Blade coming through, they're looking for a lot more results. EXL, though, they have the economy, they have the resources to counter him out. Shui's going to go down here quite easily. Staffordgen going down to Yomwon, his counterpart, for EXL, just the cleanup. At least they got the DMAC. That's all they get, though.
But they've just used everything, AVRL. EXL-Esports literally just used 5 ults to hold that push. Sure, they got a bunch out of Machi Esports. There's 50 seconds left now. They are in a bit of a precarious situation. Burst actually switching onto the Lucio now.
Honestly, it's probably fine for EXL. Despite using the ultimates, Machi committed as well. If both teams are going to make a full commit, the team that eventually wins that fight, which in this case is EXL, are going to be the ones that will obviously get the value. It's Machi that failed to get value out of the ultimate, so EXL still maintaining the lead, still maintaining the defense. Less than 30 seconds to go.
Full dive.
Machi got nothing out for it in terms of ultimates. I lied, they had the self-destruct, and the self-destruct is actually going to be pivotal for opening up this cap. So pivotal, in fact, that EXL only have 2 members left, only 2 tanks, no heals, no support, and no way to defend.
And this switch over to the dive is a masterful one for Machi Esports as they come in seemingly
switch from dive to dive
out of nowhere. I mean, well,
they switch from dive to more dive.
Yeah, when it doesn't work, just, you know, add a little more on top. Now they are going to the second point. If they can rush this in there quite quickly, maybe they can catch EXL off guard. Maybe they can get into there. But they are going for a very defense-heavy comp. You're not going to get them off it very quickly. Actually, no, Yon1 switching back over to the McCree now, and Victorious is on the Doomfist.
All right, well, the opening kills are going to be very important. Note that no team has an ultimate yet until Shui has the blade. Can get counter up. There is a flashbang. There is a shield bash. So far, none has been connected, but also at the same time, Shui has not gotten any kills. But while the whole of EXL were trying to deal with Shui's blade, the rest of Machi were able to push in. Now Statvagen onto the fire is collecting kills. No one at EXL has really responded. Machi can very easily cap right now.
A brilliant Dragon Blade there from Shui. Absolutely zones EXL off the point and just gives so much agency to Machi, who now, with Statvagen down, are going to struggle perhaps a little bit for damage, but there's enough of them on the point that it feels like EXL are going to struggle to continue here. Wow, look at how much damage Creative's doing with that Biotic Grasp.
That should be it. The final moments here. The final cap going to come through. Final members of EXL falling over as Machi continue to rack up the kills, as they continue to rack up the percentage points in the progress until eventually Machi will finish Temple of Anubis. And what could have been for EXL, maybe in an alternate universe, them fully completing that A hold. Very similar to what we said about Blank Esports in this exact same scenario.
It's shockingly similar, isn't it, really, in this instance? And they have such a great time of it and then just get rolled as soon as that overtime bar comes around.
And they were prepared. They were so prepared for the snowball. They started out with a May. They gave up one of their ultimates as well, and I believe, you know, there was a
Doomfist.
There was a change up to the Doomfist, which eliminated one of the previous ultimates. So it's almost like EXL had the right tools to get that initial stall, which would have been enough. You just have to stall until you can really get that overwhelming spawn advantage and just kind of, you know, through sheer numbers, just get back control of the point, just force it back from the attackers who cannot deal with the spawn advantage. And that's all EXL possibly would have needed. I am saying it very simplistically, and it's probably not as easy as that, but look, I think we can both agree that EXL had the means to fully hold, definitely on A, if not B, and kind of give it up.
I mean, if you've got the ultimate, though, why not just use that first and then switch on to the Doomfist? I mean, all the value you're getting out of the Doomfist is that just like, hey, I'm here, surprise rocket punch kind of to the face deal, right?
That didn't even happen.
No, exactly.
It could have happened.
So why not throw the ultimate out first and then come back with the Doomfist the next time? And obviously they felt like they were going to have to do that sort of panic stall immediately, which is why we saw the May, but...
And the other thing that was quite clear is because they forced Machi to camp out in overtime on the A point, when we got to B, they only had half the remaining map of the remaining time available on the map, which is 8 minutes down to 4 minutes to camp B, which is not a lot of time. So even though they lost A, which was very holdable for EXL, they had set themselves up so nicely to complete the B defense as well because of the initial overtime.
And there's a lot of times on that point A, right, where you're defending and you just lose a couple too many members, you have to retreat back to the point, and then you never quite get your grasp back, okay? But this time, that never happened. They always got enough picks, they always eliminated enough people that they had time for their respawn to come back all the way from that B spawn. And it was a fantastic defense up until the point where they all died.
Yeah, it was good until it wasn't. You can almost say the same thing about Machi's own defense on A. Remember that moment, they had 4 ultimates. EXL kind of came in with barely anything, if at all anything, and EXL kind of find the correct picks at the right times. Both the supports severely underestimated how good Victorious's damage on the Genji was going to be. They both fall prey to him, and suddenly, as the dominoes fall, They all just stack on top of each other, and look, Machi themselves could have potentially held on to A. So for both teams, some mistakes there that ended up being quite costly.
I mean, that Shui Dragon Blade at the end is probably
so
the best Dragon Blade I can remember that didn't get a kill.
I was going to say, it's the zoning blade is a bit of a meme, but this time around, the zoning blade actually did the job. He didn't get a kill, but it allowed the rest of his team to get the positioning to get the kills. So,
hey man, memes can be dangerous.
Airblade right? did the job. Airblade did the job when I was
growing up, there was a saying, sticks and stones may hurt your bones, but words will never hurt you. Memes have changed all that. They're dangerous now. Just like that zoning Dragon Blade.
Yep. Well, it's not very dangerous, but it does as an alternate effects. It gives everyone else a chance. But that's why you sort of look at the rest of the team as well, and the Doom Fist swap, and you got to think about it and say, I mean, where were the rocket punch kills? Where was the surprise onto the attackers? You just didn't quite see the impact of the swaps come out. And not only that, but to be quite fair, Shui dodged out all the stuns. I mean, it's not like he himself even got punished. He got away with his own life, despite not getting any kills. He didn't die. He survived a flashbang, survived the shield bash. None of those abilities hit him. So, I mean, Machi just severely outplayed that defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think he threw out the reflect pretty early.
Yeah, he deflected very quickly.
So that shows you that he's got that sort of.
Can't deflect the shield dash though.
No, but he's got that that in mind, right? He's obviously thinking about just making that space for his team, and that's what he did in the end. And it looks like finally we're going to Rialto. I have yet to see this in Pacific Contenders, so I'm certainly. In one of the games I've been casting anyway, I'm very excited.
Yeah, in the week that you've been here, but at the same time, in terms of you did get to see the first Watchpoint Gibraltar.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of Route 66, and I mean a lot of Route 66, and a decent amount of Rialto. But people don't want to go to Gibraltar. These two teams certainly don't want to go there, and I do also think we're on the precipice of Machi potentially sweeping this 3-1. It's a sweep. It's more like, we'll just ignore that first loss, and then the other 3 maps will be the sweep. And for Machi Esports, they are starting to really maintain control. And I think the reason that it's a bit different to me than the Nova Blank series is you did feel like Blank had a lot more in terms of, especially when you compare Lijiang Tower, the first versus Oasis. That was very much a one-sided affair for Blank's favor. And then the other maps, you kind of feel like, well, Blank's, this was kind of winnable. Blank kind of made some very critical errors. I would say EXL in this regard have made some of those same errors, but King's Row was so ridiculously one-sided for Machi. And then even Oasis was not super clean for EXL. So based on that, Rialto kind of feels favored in Machi's favor for me, and the possibility of them getting 3-1 is starting to feel very realistic.
And I feel like that would be an accurate result for the series we've seen, right? A 3-1, it really does feel like Machi is performing a little bit better here. It's not a stump by any means. They deserve the map they got, EXL, but I feel like Machi is going to close it out here in Rialto.
One thing to look out for, and I will assume it gets played, is Shui onto the fire, because very early on into the season when we were watching Rialto, and this is, I believe, the first season globally, I'm talking about Contenders Season 2 globally for all regions, where Rialto has been in a professional map pool. And looking at Rialto, we were kind of wondering, okay, what kind of comps might we see, what kind of strategies? Fire didn't seem like a good pick because of the prevalence of double sniper, but Shui was one of the first Fires, at least in the Pacific region, to really take the fight to the Widowmakers and get a huge advantage. Shui is back on the Fire now, going to be met by Agnes, who's stepping in for Victorious. Again, like I said, EXL, they're going to play all 8 members.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that make the Faras good here. One is, there you go, being able to use your concussive blast and knock people off the high ground, but there's also a lot of really sort of steep buildings here that you can just poke over. You're not in the sightlines of the Widows too much, so you can often just dive right down on them, get in their face.
I like the 1-2 punch there combo from Yom1 and teammate Agnes. Yom1, despite not collecting the headshot, gets a decent body shot, and with that kind of damage coming in, Agnes just finishes off Judo with a sweet rocket to the face. Now Machi do get a 1 fight loss. They also did get a kill onto Chloe, who was not raised up, so a potential for a player advantage here, considering that Chloe is still somewhat far away.
Oh, Shui can't hit the double rocket there, but Yom1 can hit the headshot. This is a very hard first point to crack. And Yomwon is going to make sure that he doesn't make it any easier here. Trying to get around the side. Is going to just keep pumping away at that Reinhardt shield here.
Well, I mean, both the Mercies here are going to try and even things up, but again, because this is the first point of the defense, Machi, as the attackers, have the spawn advantage. They get the reinforcement distance in their favor, which means EXL have to be more careful. EXL have to be a lot more considerate of the damage and the space being taken up, and Machi are ever so closely inching towards that courtyard. Shui's got to make this count though. Chloe going down again. Ultimate's coming into play. Machi in the lead.
Yeah, it's a very open first point here, so having that Pharah around and having the Infrasight actually available from Staffordgen there is going to make it very much so in Machi's favor. We do see them start to come through with a couple of kills off the back of that, understanding how EXL are setting up and exploiting the gaps in their formation.
I'm going to say Staffordgen did a lot of work here because Yomwon initially was the one that killed Staffordgen, collected another kill, but Staffordgen, after getting raised up, was able to equalize, and right now EXL want to equalize this defense as well by holding on to it if they can. Staffordgen has other ideas, has other plans, and will push, or at least attempt to push EXL out with some convincing by Shui, I might add.
Ooh.
Agnes tries to respond with the rocket barrage, but not quite as deadly as his counterpart, and with that, Machi will continue to cap.
Yeah, there's an interesting way that the end of that first point often plays out, because up until then it seems to be very much decided by the Widows and the Pharahs as you push through these large open areas, but then you get to this really tight choke and it's all about the tanks, and it's all about how much healing they can get through and whether you can sustain yourself and allow yourself to get through that first point.
It's about to be a lot more about the tanks as well, because with Agnes swapping onto Hanzo, Gableshi matching with the Zarya there as well, the Grand Dragon combo will come into effect, and that is the win condition for EXL. They're certainly pressing the issue right now, and definitely pressing for terms of space, pushing the Machi tanks back, regaining control of this bridge, and usually you'd expect this count to have already pushed to the next choke point for the attacking team, which is Machi.
Yeah, pushing buttons as well. I think Leo went a little bit ham on the charge there. Not able to get anything with it and really just exposing himself to a whole lot of damage by EXL. So now we're seeing the sniper battle across the canal. People in the gondolas are ducking for cover as these two Widowmakers duel it out, hiding behind barriers. Zarya ones, Reinhardt ones. There's a lot to be said here for finding some cover.
Here comes that grab, and I believe it came out through a judo, that's correct. But they need to find some kills, and the reason they couldn't was possibly because, well, actually, I lie, it was created with the Transcendence, so things look a little bit even worse for Machi Esports, considering they put out the grab, they put out the Trans, and still they don't have a huge advantage. They do push EXL backwards, but they don't get as many kills as they would have hoped to.
No, they might have hoped to get a little bit more out of those the ultimates they used there, but ooh, Staffordgen going for a cheeky flank, misses the shot onto the Mercy there and will announce his position. Doesn't miss that one onto the main tank though, and Melon's going down. They have him for breakfast.
Well, the thing that he needed to be able to do was open up that front line for his team, and indeed is what happened. Leo happy to collect the kill onto his counterpart Melon there with the front line broken down. Speaking of Melon, sends himself flying off the map. Machi continue pushing forward, front line unopposed, and if the front line is unopposed, then Staffordgen on the back line is also unopposed.
Yeah, it's the thing, they get the tanks, they can no longer, they're no longer able to sit on the point, so it's just a free second point cap there for Machi Esports. Now going deep with the Dragon Blade. Shui's trying to keep them at bay, but he's baited out by...
This zoning blade, unfortunately, does not work out for him. Not going to have Lightning Strike twice for that one, but the Grand Dragon combo that has been so waited upon for EXL-Esports does come through. Only gets one kill. That's because Melon stole two of them with the charge, and with Agnes coming through, collecting Staffordgen as well. Stabilization to play. Machi now going to respond with their own Hanzo pick. Shui has made the swap, but he is making a fresh swap to try and get this dragon up. Judo already with the grab. You're likely to see the grab popped in this fight, such that Judo and Shui can equalize in terms of their ultimate charge.
Yomwon using the Infrasight there. We see it popped as soon as Staffordgen uses his, just to make sure he's not outflanked by that other Widow. There's nothing tricky coming out from Machi Esports, but they don't need trick, they just need brute power with a Graviton Surge from Judo. He's charged up to 90% here, and this is going to allow them to push all the way towards the spawn of EXL-Esports.
And I'd like to see if Machi can have the resources to can finish the push right now, but I'd say probably not. You still have the Earthshadow on the other side. You still have an equal Valkyrie to measure as well. And now the spawn advantage going in the way of EXL-Esports as we do head to this final point of Rialto. Both Mercies now committed into this fight. Both Earthshadows probably to be committed afterwards, but not from Melon, because right now it's going to be Machi. Here it comes. Only one member knocked over though, and that one member, Chloe, did end up going down as well. Yomon, who survives no longer. And for Gableshe, who had the barrier on himself, who had that bubble on himself, this time no bubble to protect him, and Machi Esports do in fact complete the push on that one attempt.
The particle barrier saves him, but it's Machi Esports who pop the bubble.
Save the cap
of EXL there. And that's a pretty impressive push there. 1:30 in the time
bubble
bank.
the cap.
Is this a Captain America reference?
No, I'm talking about the capture point.
Yeah, that's true. It'd be nice. Just like the payload's just like bouncing up against it, not getting anywhere.
I can't imagine that really.
Grab the payload away.
Can't imagine that really doing much anyway.
Trapping the payload. Wow, there's so many possibilities here.
Oh, look at that.
Where's the patch blizzard?
Yeah, don't let that fool you. We're literally going to be back in 0 seconds because look at that, we're into the game again. This time Machi on defense, EXL on attack, and I do have to say 1:35 is actually a very decent time. I expected Machi to lose that last engagement, potentially cap out in overtime, which would have been a lot more reasonable. Rialto is a hard map to finish. I do want to stress that.
And it's a bit weird though, right? Because it's the first point is one of the harder points. You know, the third point it doesn't scale up like some other escort maps where it's, you know, easy first point, second point, ooh, getting a little bit hard, and then third point, you know, is the tough one. It seems like this first corner on Rialto is often the thorn on an attacking team's side that they just can't manage to rip out.
Well, it's this first choke, right? You're seeing it right now where Judo is standing. It's that first choke point that if the attackers can somehow manage to break past it, the rest of this courtyard is kind of easy pickings for the attack. They're going to get a lot of free distance. It's only in that first choke that things are difficult for the attacking team. So, you know, we've seen a fair share of full holds on A. We've also seen a fair share of complete blowouts on A. So it kind of goes both ways.
So the dive now from EXL-Esports on the attack. Usually,
it's dangerous.
The attacking team will go out with the run-up, but they're going to completely circumvent the defense here and go behind, finding the weak spot. The Mercy is taken down almost immediately.
Flip the giant crab over and attack its weak spot. That's the plan of attack for EXL right now. For Machi Esports, with those crabby legs, can't quite reorient themselves, and this is now going to be...
Is that what the Machi symbol is? Is it a crab?
No, but for this reference, I will say it is. But after this reference is complete, it will no longer be a crab. Point being, though, EXL have managed to intercept, and indeed...
It's evolved.
Whoa, Machi is evolving. EXL managed to push past that one crucial choke point, and Machi, a very early reset that they're not going to be pleased with.
No, and look at this. They've once again circumvented them. Look, they've gone all the way around the back. A single person on the card pushing it as always. And Yomwan destroying them on the bridge. No sightseeing for you, Machi. Well, apart from the Diva, who's going to get a nice look at the water there.
Doesn't even land on a boat. Probably for the best. Carroll, she's going to join Judo in the water. A very quick cap from EXL. Now you got to start to believe.
That's brilliant, though.
We've had this conversation to say that the A point has been where a lot of stoppages happen. I do also want to say that I wouldn't underestimate that final checkpoint either. I think C is still very difficult to take. So we'll see if EXL can really manage to press this early time lead. But certainly Machi are not going to give this up without a fight. They want to take the fight to EXL. And certainly it'll be Stanford taking the fight to Agnes. Deadeye coming through to collect medic as well. Stops the Dragon Blade, then gets a kill with his own ultimate. Leo comes back into play. Machi really made a statement here.
Staffordson has had some crazy flicks today. He's really pulled off some impressive shots on McCree. Missed a couple of flashbangs, interestingly.
Apparently doesn't need them. Still connecting the shots regardless.
Headshots too good, apparently. Headshots OP. They're still having to fight, though. It feels like EXL not wanting to give this one up just yet. The Diva in a very bad position there, as well as the Mercy, who's... Oh.
By the way, did see Agnes swap over to the far, so it'll be interesting to see how that counters out. Will certainly do a good job against the tanks, but won't do you a lot of good against Stanford, and the rally comes out.
Maximum value from that.
Extra 100 armor for your whole team.
Doesn't go away. Not like the
it's gone away now. Staffordshire loses that 100, or nearly the 100. So it's close to going away. Some people will lose that. Staffordshire, though, the headshot onto Melon doesn't get the Primal Rage in time. And Machi Esports have not been forced to use these ultimates. They've not been forced to bleed any resource out. Incoming Deadeye. Misses. A bit of an awkward time to use Deadeye, I have to admit, because Machi had technically won the fight already, but oh, you give it to him.
Yeah, it looks like they've managed to take control of the payload back now, and this is very important for Staffordshire, who is trying to just keep them at that medium range that McCree likes, where he's not going to get jumped on by the Pharah, but he can still do enough damage to take her out of
that
Spy. Ooh, it's Pharah, though, with a triple kill for EXL-Esports, who is going to push this payload now. If not all the way to the second point, at least very close with that.
Finally, as well, they've been waiting for a decent amount of time to get the distance into play. Leo swapping from Reinhardt onto a Winston now. Shui going himself onto the Pharah. So Machi want to play this one a little bit quicker. They don't want to be reactive. They want to be proactive, and they want to take the fight directly to EXL. Stop up this B push in its tracks before it can reach the destination.
Oh, Medic's not getting away from that one. Staffordshire, once again, just being the terror of anybody in the sky right now, as Machi do not allow them to capture that second point. And if they don't know, it looks like they're going to have to fall all the way back here. This is very troublesome for EXL. They did manage to capture that first point so quickly, of course, so they've still got 2.5 minutes left. But thank God for that. Otherwise, this would have been a really tough second point.
Advantage of running a quicker composition there for Machi Esports. And interestingly enough, on this B point, we usually see Ryan Zaya versus Ryan Zaya, Grand Dragon versus Grand Dragon. Neither team wants to play that right now. Both teams want to play a Pharah. Both teams want to play a dive. The only exception is EXL is still running Yom 1 onto the Zarya. They respect the combo opportunity. They still want to play for the grab and the possibility of putting a rocket barrage into the middle of it.
Yeah, without these poke compositions, though, it does seem hard for Yom 1 to build up the energy required to pick up the grab. But there we go. He's got it up now. This is finally his opportunity. Look at that. Judo's right on top of him, though, with the defense matrix on top of him. He doesn't want to use the grab.
Now it's too late to do anything about that. No Ray is going to be available as well. Valkyrie nearly into play, but with the Deadeye
every time
again coming through, Medic going down, Agnes grounded and pounded with the Peacemaker there from Staffordshire, and suddenly still Machi Esports continue to hold. For EXL-Esports, we are now looking at that combination. Grab into barrage is about to be ready.
Yeah, well, the ground and pound strategy, usually that's for artillery, but you might as well think that Staffordshire is firing some big caliber bullets from that Peacemaker right now, because EXL are having so much trouble getting rid of him.
Talk about artillery right now. Death from above from Shui. 2 members down. With some support from teammate Judo. We'll get the D-Mech on the Gable sheet as well. There we go. Machi Esports still managing to continue this holding. They're actually pushing further up as the card is moving backwards now, nearing that halfway mark of the B. Machi are getting closer and closer to the EXL spawn.
Yeah, they've just been pushing them further and further back with this poke from Staffordshire that Agnes does not seem to mind, or at least we don't see a switch yet. Now finally Melon finding a way through a couple of Primal Rage kills, almost an anti-air kill here from the Winston, who is so high up in the sky.
Gotta say, Shui has done...
Even through the Harmony Orb.
Shui has done a fantastic job of hitting those air shots in the Melon. That being said, though, it's 1,000 HP. You can only have so much damage out, but 6 rockets won't even be enough. The EXL, for some time now, has not managed to take control of the count, so that they can be happy with. Still have the ultimates. Here comes the Valk, though. Where's the grab? That's a big question. Does catch a few.
Low energy.
There is also in there a Transcendence, and we didn't see Agnes get that barrage out of there. He was killed by Shui. So right now, not looking too pretty for EXL-Esports. As a reminder, Machi Esports, if they win here, they take the matchup, and they're very close to winning. It's not looking too pretty for EXL-Esports, but there is still the possibility with Agnes back into play. What can the barrage find? Not a lot. Primal Rage in the middle of the mix as well. Staffordshire going to shut him down. But Machi Esports perhaps not good enough of a response there's still a lot of EXL members available on this card.
Yeah, and Medic's still there, but you can see how much they're harrying Medic. There we go, he goes down. Now that the tanks don't have healing, it's going to be so hard for them to sustain on the point any further. Bullshit, actually, with the blaster manages to get Judo, and they're desperately trying to get this second point here. Shui and Creative starting to turn this around. Machi, the momentum is on their side now.
Oh, it's just going back and forth, but you're right, Machi have got this one. They have completed the hold. They had the spawn advantage, and for EXL just too far away, did not have the distance to play with, did not have the resources to play with, and did not get that victory. Machi coming through when it really matters. And 8 members on EXL, they use all 8 of them, but all 8 of them could not beat the force of Machi Esports in this series. A 3-1 victory, well played from Machi, and you gotta say, despite that huge lead that EXL had after capping A in record time, being stopped up on B is not where you expected them to be stopped.
It was a very different game after that, wasn't it? It was at a very cool strategy they brought out. Going around the back, we have seen very few people do that so far. And the quick catch on the Mercy was just enough to get that first point.
And a first point turns into a full map win.
Turns into another first place.
Which turns into a current first place until someone else in Group A can, I guess, win their match to also be 3-1 in terms of match score. But a 3-1 would also put them in a pretty nice space in terms of a map record. So they were on a +3. That would put them now on, I believe, a +2, because the loss and the win equalize each other out. So they get 2 extra maps in terms of advantage. So they're at a 3-1 and a +5 map record. And that'll really put pressure on the other teams to see if they can maybe get a cleaner win to put themselves ahead. Note that the other 2 teams in that top 4, Talon and Monster Shield, had a better map record of 4 and 5. So there is a potential that, you know, while Machi are #1 for now, the competition is still pretty rough.
Yeah, I mean, Monster Shield Korea, they've already taken down Machi, so perhaps they're the ones to challenge them at the top of the standings. Either way, we've got a little bit more clarity tonight about the standings in Group A and where those top 4 teams do really fit in.
Yeah, it's certainly, you know, it's going to look interesting. And when you look at the future as well, you have the sort of scenario where both
Crystal Ball.
EXL, well, you don't need a crystal ball, you just look at the schedule. Both EXL, it's called the internet. Both EXL and, who am I talking about here, Machi Esports, have quote-unquote easier games next week. They're both playing, I guess, the teams currently at the bottom of the table, New Paradigm, and also Mega. So for them, right now, you look at Machi specifically, because they're at 3-1, I would say they're expected to finish the season 4-1. We had this conversation. The team that finishes 4-1 is very likely to be the team that has first place in this Group A.
Yeah, and has the best chance, or at least equal best chance, of going through to the grand finals in Bangkok, playing alongside those World Cup players.
It just dawned upon me that first place in Group A plays 4th place, and that's an obvious thing. They play 4th place, but 4th place in Group B might actually be blank at this point. So that's actually interesting. It's you come first, but then you got to play blank. But then also blank's had a pretty rough season. So is that a good thing or a bad thing for Group A first place team? I don't even know. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to look forward to it, but it's just not. It's everything's up in the air still. You wait to see how the other teams of Group A do. It's at that sort of point where you like to come first because you face #4, but also you still know it's blank. You're like, ooh.
It's like that team, you know, like a tennis player coming back after an injury, you know, and they're not seeded into the tournament, and you're like, but no, I really don't want to face them, because they could just come out and bring back that peak form and eliminate you from the tournament, which would suck after you've got a first seed.
Well, I mean, a lot to be done and a lot to be said still to find those final results. We got one more week of gameplay before we get to week 5. Let's finish up week 4, and week 4, day 7 will continue very soon after this break. When we come back, it's going to be Mega, it's going to be Talon. Find out what happens after this break.